25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Nice looking Friday. I think there's some big news in the horse world tomorrow, right? The Belmont Stakes is tomorrow. Do I have it right?
But hey, we got a week away.
Oh, it's still a week away.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit early. See how?
But we do have a big event
anxious.
tomorrow, though.
Oh, we do. Okay.
The Run for the Ribbons horse show. So
Run for the Ribbon. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is Horse Sense, and that voice is Tammy Gant. And good morning, Tammy.
Good morning.
And you have a few guests. Of course, Mark Shufford is here, and Dory Morgan is here, and is it Lorene?
Yes.
Lorene. What's your last name?
Vargas.
She just got married, so
okay,
it's
yeah.
Barrera,
She's
but
having trouble remembering.
Okay.
You know, it used to be.
She literally
it's
just
brand
got
new
married.
and,
Yeah, that's what happens.
what,
That's what
30
happens.
days? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Wow.
30 days.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming in. So I'm a week early, huh?
you are a week early for the Belmont Stakes, so we'll
Okay.
talk about that in a little bit. We're very excited because California Chrome is working well and looking good. And I have to say, Lorene and I had the pleasure of being there live at Preakness Stakes, railside, as we
Oh,
watched
nice.
him win.
Oh, nice.
And I think we could both say we were in tears.
Yeah, it was
Why?
pretty
It was-
amazing.
It was an amazing experience to be there and be a part of a history-making event. And I think what was interesting, too, is when we saw him being saddled, we could tell that he's like a ham. He's a big ham, and
that funny?
they have a party at his barn afterwards, like literally a party, and there were hundreds of people there surrounding him as he got his bath. And he knew which cameras were the most important. He'd pose for your phone camera, but when he saw, a real TV camera, then he was serious posing, and he looked like a little human. He was just like, oh, camera, I'm a
that's
star,
funny.
I'm a star.
Oh, wow.
And so this horse seems very special just from the fact that he thinks he's human already. So
Wow. So at a horse party, is the music of choice "Hey Ya"?
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the music of choice.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because a horse party's not very lively because you're quiet because of the horses. Even though I think he might have enjoyed it, some of the others, his runner-ups, were also in the same barn area, and they keep them all together. So he's like been in a stall where a number of winners have come from, and the other horses weren't really enjoying the fact that there was company in a crowd. They wanted to eat their evening feed and just take a nap. So
Oh,
I
really?
think they were mostly just jealous. I mean, I think they were, they're just missing out.
I think that they might have felt a little remiss. But anyway, today we're here a little bit to talk about the Run for the Ribbons horse show. It's an all thoroughbred horse show, and there's been a big movement in the United States to do these shows that are for thoroughbreds. So they raced, or maybe they didn't race and have a career in racing, but now this is another way to use the versatility of the thoroughbred. And so Lorene has started a show series here. She just hosted one in April, and she's going to host one tomorrow, and eventually hopefully a monthly series that'll incorporate the full state. So I wanted to let Lorene talk a little bit about tomorrow's show, and we'll
All right.
go from there.
All right.
Okay, so we've got everything starting from lead line to classes for our retired horses that are no longer able to be ridden, as well as walk trot canter classes, jumping all the way up to 3 feet. It was really neat growing up in a show world. I went to a lot of shows that were not just for thoroughbreds, and the atmosphere just was tense sometimes. And last month, it was really cool to have 30 plus horses there and to have everyone enjoying themselves. There was no tension. There was nobody, thinking they were above the rest. Everyone was there for the same purpose, which was to promote the breed. And it was really just special to be able to provide that place for them. And we're really expecting a better outcome for tomorrow's show, and we've got a lot of support behind us, and we're really...
And where is it? And are we all invited?
Yes, it's open to spectators. It's free for spectators. It's
Really?
in Morriston.
Oh, in Morriston.
Yep.
Okay.
Off of Highway 27 on 464B at Cedar
Okay.
Lock Farm South. And
they actually have a Facebook page, Run for the Ribbons, that you can go to for all the information.
Okay.
And also you can go to Horse Sense Ocala's Facebook page. I've been promised today,
All right, that's one. That's
that I
one.
have to mention it 3 times. But
That's
I have
one.
to say, I went to our page last night, and there's over 1,000 followers, and it's amazing. I can see why they're following, because it's not just because they heard it on the radio show, but there's photos of her show up that we've put from the last show. There are amazing photos that some photographers, Lou and
Oh,
Lydia Lydia
nice.
DeMarco have taken and they've put on there, and they've really dedicated a lot of their time and effort to promoting the horse world. And so it's kind of fun because I went on and I saw California Chrome. Someone posted a video, and I was there. That's the party I'm talking about.
Oh, cool.
If you go on and you can see it, even says, look, he look at how he's reacting. And I mean, people are gathered around him, and he doesn't act like a really high-strung thoroughbred. He looks like, hey, I'm a champion and I know it. So those kind of things are on the page. Again, the Facebook page, Horse Sense Ocala. So that's 2 times I've mentioned it.
That's 2, but that's kind of like 1.5 because that was all the same sentence. You didn't even breathe.
But yes, but going back to the all thoroughbred horse show, I know one of the things that we were talking about outside that Laureen can talk about is how we envision this to expand. And so you want to talk a little bit about what you see for the future and.
Yeah. Okay. So for the future, I guess what we really want, is to have a full show series where every month we get together for 1 day and we have our show. And at the end of the year, we'd like to do an annual banquet. So say when we were kind of speaking about maybe doing something with the Florida breeders in that aspect. And then we'd also really want to have an equitation finals every year. We're still working out the number of getting the right amount of entries at every show to qualify, because you need so many horses to qualify for finals. And so we're working on all of that, but that is our goal, is to have an annual banquet every year to celebrate and award the top horses and riders of the year, as well as having an equitation finals to just kind of
and then
celebrate the best horses. And
And you mentioned the South Florida show. What
Yes.
are you thinking about how that'll be or when that might be?
The tentative dates for that are November 22nd and January 3rd. We're working with Celia Scarlett from Florida Horse and Florida Track about that, and right now it's on the calendar. We've got those 2 dates reserved. It's just in the works of getting everything out there. We're probably going to revise the schedule a little bit for the class list because they've got extra rings there, and so we're really looking forward to that and trying to get everything down to South Florida as well and really expand this effort throughout the state of Florida.
So you said it's going to be in Weirsdale?
It's going to be in Plantation.
Okay.
Down in South
Horse Park.
Florida, yeah. So I think what the thing is, just statewide, there's opportunity for horses to participate in these shows, these all thoroughbred shows. And she mentioned there's different organizations that work with thoroughbreds, and when they come off the track, that they're placed in good homes and placed in opportunities where they can thrive. And so here locally, we have a farm that's called the Second Chances Farm, and it's partnered with the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association and the Department of Corrections and the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, which is a national foundation. So we, as a 3-pronged partnership, if you will, have the facility at Lowell Correctional Institute. So it's actually at a prison, and it was the first farm in the country in 2001 to be developed where retired thoroughbreds could go, and they work with the inmates, and then the inmates gain skills that they're able to be placed on horse farms when they come out of prison.
Oh, wow. That's a great program.
Yeah, and so this particular program houses horses that may not go and participate in shows, but they're retired Florida bred champions, and we have 2 horses that were millionaires that stand there, and 3 champions, and a horse that actually ran in the Preakness Stakes that is there. And so right now, they use male prisoners to build the farm, then they changed it, and so we're the only female program in the country. And so there are 42 horses there right now. They can handle up to 50, and the female, we don't like to call them inmates, we like to call them students. The students are there getting an equine certification degree.
Okay.
So they get a 2-year degree, and they start out not knowing anything about horses, or if they did, they start out from scratch, going back to those basics and saying, here's safety, here's horse care, here's what you're going to need if you work on a farm. And I saw a petite little inmate that she was about 80 pounds and 20 years old, and she was shoeing a horse. She literally was putting shoes on a
Wow.
horse,
Wow.
and this horse was, a 2,000-pound animal. And it was amazing to see. When I asked her, I said, oh, you've been around horses your whole life.
Right.
And she said, no. She goes, I met them here, and she said, and they're my inspiration. The reason I get up every day, she goes, because being incarcerated,
That
you
is
don't have a goal.
life-changing. I mean, what
yeah,
are
and
you
it's
doing? It's
life-changing.
life-changing for these
exactly.
people.
And so
Yeah.
80 inmates have gone through this program and gotten out of the prison system, and only 2 have gone back. And that's a very low
Wow.
attrition rate to go back. And so what it shows is not only that they gain a skill set, they gain some life purpose there, and they're able to apply that in the real world when they get out.
That is wonderful. I love that program. I mean, that just sounds like a win-win for everybody.
It really is. And so we work with what's called Florida Thoroughbred Charity charities to do events throughout the year to raise funds for that. But again, tying in with this whole retired thoroughbred theme. So you've got thoroughbreds that can compete and go to shows at high levels. You've got horses that are retired and they're making a difference in people's lives. There's therapeutic riding associations in the area that use the retirees. So they're very versatile, and it's wonderful that Florida now is starting these horse shows. And I have to give Lorene a lot of credit, because when I first came up here in Ocala, and maybe Dory can speak to this too, it's been a few years that the people have been trying to do thoroughbred horse shows, and they just haven't gotten them together. They either didn't take, because people from other areas and other parts of the country said, oh, we do these in different states and they're really popular, but ours wasn't catching on. And so Lorene really was able to organize it in such a way, contacting all the people from all the different agencies and all the people that work with these horses, and said, how can we make this happen? And now we're seeing this dream come true with the first show in April. Now it grows to May, and then we're going to see this grow exponentially in the next few years.
Wow, I just love that what you've described. You have people who have made poor decisions, and they end up in jail, and whatever life dealt them prior to that moment led them to that point. And I'm not blaming other people. We take responsibility for ourselves, but you introduced to them an opportunity to really take pride in something, and that's what I think makes a big difference. And every discussion we've ever had about the therapeutic riding programs that we have, there are a couple of different ones, really indicate that there's some kind of a cosmic or some kind of an unexplained phenomenon that happens, and obviously that's part of this as well.
Well, I think there's this whole nobility of the thoroughbred and mystique, and so when you don't know a horse and you go into a situation as a person in this program would, and they meet this horse, and the horses say, likes to nip, likes to bite a little, or do something, has a habit, they have to learn that personality of that horse, and they can't use those behaviors maybe they used in the real world with other humans, where they argued or where they had some negative reactions that maybe got them into that situation in the first place. So they have to actually kind of relearn in ways that they deal in order to work with a horse. And so horses teach them, but they also teach horses a lot. The horses learn, many of the horses learn tricks out there at the farm, because they have a lot of time. So they now are able to ride the horses, and then some of the horses they will count for you and do a lot of little things. So the horses always want, they need motivation too. And so that cooperative effort. And the one young woman, she's now out of prison, and one of the things that she said that was very powerful to me was, she said, I didn't have a purpose in life before I went into prison. That's what put me there. She says, but every day I had to wake up and know I had to go feed my millionaire thoroughbred retired, Shake You Down. He's a national sprint champion. I had to go and get up and feed him. He was waiting for me. He was that person or animal, if you will, saying, I need you. And that was the first time in her life she had that feeling. There are also a lot of the inmates there that they have children, and so they can't really put that love on their children when they're in that situation in the correctional institute. So what happens is they put that love with the horses, and the horses give it right back. So it's an amazing thing. But not to get too far off track talking about that, we're talking about retired thoroughbreds. I don't know if Dory or Mark wanted to add anything about the retirees or the shows, or
No, I think it just, it's important for us to get this out, because it just shows how many more jobs there are out there for the thoroughbreds, to educate the general public that there are jobs and we are finding them.
Well, and you used to be on the board for one of the organizations that use some thoroughbreds, the Marion Thoroughbred Riding Association.
Yeah, so thoroughbreds have many things they can do besides racing, and they're very versatile, and people a lot of times think they're high-strung, and they really aren't. And they can do anything another horse can do.
I wanted to ask Lorraine, what made you want to take this on? What made you want to do this? Where'd you come from?
Well, I went to a show with my thoroughbred, and he's a little high-strung. He's got some issues, and we got there, and for him, he was pretty good. He didn't do anything really bad. He carried his head a little high, but there was a warm blood in that same show against us who picked up its wrong lead going to the first jump, which in the show ring and the jumping ring, that's a big no-no. Like, that's something that would normally get you put below another horse, especially one that had nothing wrong with their course, and the horse won the class. And I was like, it's because he's a pretty warm blood, that regardless of what he's doing, he looks pretty. He carries his head always where it's supposed to be, and he just looks prettier. And I was like, I went over to Hits and watched Hits, and the prices of Hits to go over there and compete for the weekend, speaking to some people, to go for 3 days, it's about $1,000 for the weekend, and they come home with 3 ribbons. And so I wanted to,
Were there $300 ribbons?
yeah, with their $300 ribbons. And it's just like going and competing against the warm bloods with my thoroughbreds. I've had it all grown up. I always had a thoroughbred. My mom never.
Okay,
wanted
so
to
that's
see
what
anything.
that's what I mean. So you
Yeah,
always had a thoroughbred.
I've always had thoroughbreds.
And
So
her,
Okay,
her
how
mom
did you
was a
come-
jockey,
My-
actually, a lady legend that
Okay.
ran it in Black Eyed Susan Day, actually. So her mom
Like we-
herself, she comes from a family of legends. So
Right.
yeah, like the whole family, I've had thoroughbreds growing up, and it's just been very hard. I've always, done well because I put the time into my horses, but it's hard to compete. You can
Right.
have the best thoroughbred there, but it's hard to compete against the warm bloods at a typical show.
Yep.
And I wanted to give everyone a level playing field. I wanted to, promote the show, and I feel bad excluding the warm bloods, but now the thoroughbreds can come and it's a level playing field. You're not competing against a horse just because of what they are. It's fair.
Right,
Everything.
so you're not just a promoter.
My grandfather has, been in the industry for 50 years in the thoroughbred industry, and so I've seen firsthand. He breeds his own, he runs them, and then he retires them. And so I've seen firsthand how tough it is to retire these horses. It's 365 days a year I'm trying to find good homes for these horses when they come back to me, because they start with me as babies, they get broke, they go to the track, and then they come back to me.
And get repurposed.
And they get rebroke. Yeah, I retrain them to either jump, or some of them are just trail horses. Whatever, depending on what they retire with,
Right.
depends on where they go next. And
Well,
so
I think
I've just taken a personal
we started talking
liking.
about, yeah, that's really neat. And we started talking about what had been done here previously, and things were trying to, they being some other promoters were trying to assemble something and put something together. And I think that's the difference. As far as I know, those were the promoters. Those were the people that had an idea that was a good idea. But they say, well, we'll put on a show, and then people will come. And then, this is part of what you do.
Yeah, this is my life.
She has
These horses are my life.
You have the knowledge, you have the experience, you have the contacts, because you've been adopting out these horses, where a lot of these repurposed horses are, so you still have connections with getting those people here.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it successful, is to have somebody like you at the helm.
yeah, I think the secret ingredient is Run for the Ribbons has the passion and drive behind it, and then meaningfulness, because it means something to you when people can come and go have fun at your show and have a good time and showcase their thoroughbred.
Yeah.
I think that's what sums it up.
That's
I think.
that was like the driving force, It's
Yeah.
just like, well, I would want somewhere to show my thoroughbred, so why not give it to the people?
Create that space. Tell me a little, though. I want to know about how it felt for you. It was her first trip up to Black Eyed Susan and Preakness last weekend. How did it feel when your mom was there and you got to see her being a celebrity signing autographs? Because her mom, Abby Fuller, was signing autographs because she's a lady legend. She's a lady jockey. One of the
Oh, wow.
first ones,
Oh, wow.
one of the early ones that really put lady jockeys on the map. So how did it feel to be there, that experience?
It was really cool. It was, to see her getting legged up for the last time. It was just really special. The whole family was there. Her granddaughter was there. It was just, really neat. She's done this all her life, and she's
neat.
just the nicest person in the world. She really is. And
And Lorene mentions
It was-
horse talk. You can see legged up means that she was getting up on the racehorse for the race, because the Lady Legends
I'm glad you
actually
explained
compete
that, yeah.
to a race.
I wasn't
Because
sure.
you're like legged up.
I
Is she
have a-
putting leggings on? What's going on?
By the way, I have another Horse 101 question. I was reluctant to ask it, but when you say warm-blooded, aren't all horses warm-blooded? What does that mean?
It's a breed type. It's just like you have your poodles and
Was that a
your
dumb question?
Labradors.
I feel
it's
like-
a very good one.
There are, you have what's called cold bloods, hot bloods, and then warm bloods.
What does it mean, though?
Cold bloods are
Where
the
they're
horses
from.
that came from cold climates.
Oh,
Typically,
okay.
your draft horses, your Clydesdales, your Shires, your Belgiums, those are cold bloods. They came from very cold climates. Your hot bloods came from hot climates, Arabians, your
Okay,
and
okay.
they-
And so where's the warm blood
yeah,
from here?
thoroughbreds,
Arabians,
and then the warm bloods
Andalusian.
are typically a combination of the two. Over the years, they took breedings. So all your warm bloods are going to have Arabian in them, and that was a foundation
Okay,
of breeding.
okay, all right.
And they're going to be big boned.
And some of
big
them have the
horses.
cold blood in them. So a lot of your your big warm bloods that you see have some draft horse in them for the calmness, but then you want the hot blood to get the speed, the endurance, the athletic.
So the temperature reference also kind of gives you an idea of their personality?
A lot of people think that.
Okay. Oh,
And
Mark
sometimes
doesn't
it
think so.
does. You know, your cold bloods, your drafts are pretty laid back.
Dopey.
And dopey.
Kinda.
Yeah. I've had all
Those
of
are all
them.
stereo.
But it
that's-
tends to
those
be
are all
like people, yeah.
stereotypical. That's like
Yeah.
saying all redheads have a hot temper.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so
okay,
but
okay.
so there's some truth in it, but it's a bit of a stereotype. But
But it's more of an
I think the thing is, like Dory was saying, you were saying, oh, so would that mean we live in a warm climate? We have a lot of warm bloods? Not necessarily,
No.
because what it means is that's where they kind of came from, and it's just like they have
okay.
the sporting dog group. You have all these dogs that are sporting dogs in the show, but they aren't sporting dogs necessarily anymore, and they live
Not
all over the
anymore.
world. Well, some of them aren't.
Yeah.
They traditionally started that way, but now they're showing in shows. So the warm bloods is a group of horses, the cold bloods and the hot blooded, and so you can kind of help distinguish where those horses historically came
Historically
from. But when
came
she
from.
says warm blood, it's really a type that's a big bone type horse that is bred specifically for those type of competitions, that is just looks like really athletic. And a lot of thoroughbreds can have that look too. But what happened traditionally is in some shows they kind of got poo-pooed on, like, oh, they're there, but oh, this guy looks so
I think I
good.
know what poo-pooed on meant. I think
Yes.
that's
Got
what-
that one? We don't have to explain that.
So a little manure there.
Within that jumping world, then it became very fashionable. That's
Vogue,
what
yeah.
Rain was saying.
Yeah.
These people compete not just for the $300 ribbons, they compete for the bragging rights oh, my horse came from here and my horse came from there, and oh, well, I got one from that person, and so it became very fashionable a few years
and it's
ago.
Not, it's not a bad thing. It's a
No.
good thing. And what happened too is there was a fashionable time when thoroughbreds, because
Yes.
some thoroughbreds went to the Olympics, and they were like, wow, they were kind of had more attention than the warm bloods. And now we're starting to see a resurgence. Right now, there's a lot of warm bloods, but there are a lot of thoroughbreds now coming through those ranks again. And people that are in that market, that show horse market, it hits. They like to look for retirees now in this area when they come to town and when they come for the shows, and they like to go down to South Florida and look for horses that are on the racetrack that have that build and that look that they want to compete in shows. So some horses, before they're even finished as racehorses, already have a second life planned for them.
Oh, really?
And they're going to be
Oh, wow.
in these high levels of competition. And so there are people that have a really good eye for that at some of the racetracks down in South Florida, and they watch for these wonderful athletes. They say, he's a nice looking racehorse, but when he retires, he'd be a nice looking show horse.
Okay, that makes sense
And
to
they'll
me, yeah.
compete. They'll compete with those other horses.
Tammy, we've got about 2 minutes if you want to recap. Is the event tomorrow, right?
I got to recap. There's this thing called Horse Sense Ocala on Facebook,
That's two.
and I have to mention that, and I'll mention it again. But I'll mention hers Run for the Ribbons on Facebook.
You have to have something in between.
That way I can pause for a moment and add Horse Sense Ocala, our Facebook page. It's really, really a good place
Okay,
to
that's
visit.
three. All right.
Like it. Make
And
sure you
I
like
will
it.
mention I'm from the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association, so our mission is to promote the Florida Thoroughbred. But we, Horse Sense, like to promote all horses and all of the horse community here, because the goal of this group is really to connect the business community and those that don't know about horses with the horse industry, because it is so strong here in Marion County. It is the horse capital of the world because we have the most horses and ponies compared to any other county in the United States. So we're proud of that, and that's what this group is here to do.
Well, and hopefully we can do that and make that fun at the same time, and maybe learn a little bit of something. Lorraine mentioned a minute ago something about leads, and so Crystal had on. We talked about the terminology last week. Now we have some stuff. Go to the Facebook page. That's 4.
Horse Sense Ocala, if you go to the Facebook page, you'll learn about that terminology.
And we've got a link there to a lot of that terminology. So now you
Which
can go
is cool.
discover what a lead was. I'm going to tell you what a lead is if you don't already know, but that's your homework assignment. Go to Facebook and look up lead.
All right. Well, thank you all, as always. Always fun, and I'm learning. I retained about 10%, I guess. I don't know if that's good or bad, but
That's normal.
it's normal. Well, thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And nice to meet you, Lorraine.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
I'm a different breed. Come on, follow me. We'll make it through.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. President Obama meets with Veterans Affairs Secretary Eric Shinseki in the White House Oval Office this morning.